Hello, welcome to the Villa View. It's time for a transfer talk show in association with Luke Roper. If you use the code TVV20, you will get 20% off most items on their website. Geez, quite a lot's happened over the last few days. It's fair to say. I mean, Omar, I don't know where your head's at, but I thought I was okay with Jack Grealish leaving. I thought I'd come to terms with it. I'd had a week or so to marinate that I knew it was probably going to happen. And then I've seen him in a Man City shirt. And I felt a little bit emotional.
It's tough, mate. It really is. It's tough. And, non-football fans don't understand the emotion involved in supporting your team, especially seeing what we've seen today. Like the attachment you have with players, the attachment you have with the team, it's what makes it special. And it's why there are so many football fans. It's why football is, the best sport in the world. And having that community, Villa is the heart of the community, having a local lad such as Jack coming up through the ranks, being there since 6 years old, and then what we've gone through these last few days, it's been tough, for a lot of people, and you'll have some people who get detached from it emotionally and they think logically and rationally. But I think the majority of people are quite emotional about it all. Obviously, with what's happened in the last few days, which I'm sure we'll go on, but. I know it's a cliche to say, but it's been a roller coaster of emotions. It really has. And I think all I like to say is I think the club have handled it really, really well. And I can't praise them enough. I can't praise our owners enough. I can't praise Christian Perslow enough. I can't praise the management team enough. And we're in good hands, regardless of what happens, regardless of what's happened. The only way is up.
Yeah, I wanted to start with that because if you'd have said to me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, probably even a year ago, actually, what is the day going to be like when Jack Grealish leaves? I would have thought it's going to be catastrophic. It's going to be bewilderment. Everyone's going to be really, really low. It's probably going to be one of the worst days of being a Villa fan that there's ever been. But actually, the way the club have executed everything, the way they've behaved, getting their business done and making sure things were announced, like Danny Ings before the Jack Grealish deal went through, making sure that they spoke to our fans before Man City could announce everything. Everything's been so precise. Everything's been executed with such precision. I think the club comes out with an awful lot of credit from what should have been a really upsetting and catastrophic few days. The club has come out of this so well. Not many clubs are run with a class and that way that Aston Villa are ran now. And that's something we've not always been able to say. And I think everyone behind the scenes deserves an awful amount of credit.
Yeah. I mean, I was quite surprised when I saw the tweet that we were going to go live. And I was hoping for an explanation, and that's exactly what we got. It was honest, it was clear, it was transparent, and that's all you want from your owners. That's what a lot of other fans don't get from their owners. There's a lot of absent owners, and we've got the opposite. And Perslow being there, obviously he understands football. He's been around the block. He's he knows what he's doing. He's a skillful negotiator. As well, and the fact that he explained the whole timeline of events, it was clear for everyone. There's no rumors. There's been rumors about is there a release clause, isn't there a release clause? Was it the owner's decision? Wasn't it the owner's decision? I think it's clear to see now what's happened, and the fact that they've done it. People call it almost like a shit sandwich. Good news with bad news and the good news. But what they've done is they've just fronted up with the good news, and it's made it so much more palatable. The fact that we've managed to sign Leon Bailey. And I'm sure we'll come on to that in a second in terms of him and how that was announced and all that kind of good stuff. And the fact that we've got Danny Ings, it's completely out of the blue. I can't remember a transfer like it. Obviously, there was probably people that knew, but in terms of the Twitter sphere, social media, no one knew. And it reminded me of the Darren Bent transfer all those years ago, where it just sort of came out of nothing. And the fact that we've managed to sign someone like that, again, I'm sure we'll touch on that as well. And Perzo spoke about how they had a plan, and it's clear to see now what that plan is. It was to replace not Jack Grealish, because Jack Grealish is irreplaceable. What he means to us, he's worth far more than £100 million to us, but there's an emotional side of that. But replace his attributes and replace his output, and we've got that. We've got Emi Buendia, who I talked about a couple of years ago as being, if we did go down or if Jack did ever leave, he'd be the key person to replace him with, because his creativity. And what he can do in terms of creating goals is on par with Jack. He's done that, but he's done that in the Premier League before.
Very good in the press as well.
Very good in the press, exactly, very much so. And we replaced the creativity with Emi Buendia. You replaced the ball retention and the dribbling with Leon Bailey. He's excellent at both. And then you replaced
You've added raw pace there as well, haven't you?
Raw pace, which we didn't have before. And then you've got the talisman. You've got the leader and the goals with Danny Ings. So Danny Ings is a top striker. Only Kane, Salah, and Vardy are the only ones to outscore him in the last 2 seasons. And whatever you want to talk about transfer fees and his age and all that kind of stuff, I think and again, I'm sure we'll touch on that as well. I just think it's so well executed by Villa. It's a horrible situation to be put in when your captain wants to leave and the talisman of your club wants to leave. But the fact that we've ended up looking in a really strong position speaks well for our club, and we're only heading in one direction for me.
Yeah, we'll come on to all those signings and a couple more that potentially may end up signing with the club in the next week or two. But what did you make of the reasoning for Jack leaving? There's many that don't understand it. There's many that cannot get it at all. There's a range of emotions from Villa fans. Some people are angry. Some people are accepting it. Some people wish him well. Some don't. What did you make of the reasoning, and do you agree with his reasoning?
I've got mixed emotions, to be honest, mate. Really have. The emotional side of me is disappointed, really disappointed, and quite angry. And I think it's a sad indictment of where modern football is that, because I think the story of Villa, of Grealish and Dean Smith, both Villa fans, the heart of this club, bringing it back to where it belongs, and now we're there, about to push on to the next level. And I know, I get it. This next level now is the hardest bit. What we've done so far is almost like the easy bit. Now pushing on to that elite level is really difficult, and I do get that. But it's just a sad indictment of football where Man City, with what they've done over the last 10 years, and nothing against Man City. We are spending money. I'm not naive to that. We're trying to spend our way to Europe. But the fact that this was almost like the antidote of modern football, Dean Smith and Jack Grealish, and the fact that we've lost him now, it's a sad part. But then from a sort of a human level, I understand for him, he wants to win trophies. He's a professional. He's not a fan like us. He's a fan, obviously. He's got a strong emotional attachment to the club. His whole family has. It's in their blood. It's embedded in them. But he's been a professional coming up through the academy. He's slightly detached from it, the way that we are. We go to games all the time. He's involved in the club. It's slightly different. And Dean Smith always says, he's a manager first and a fan second, almost.
Yes, that's very true.
Sounds like a bit like David Brent when I say that, but
no, it's true. That.
So I get it from his perspective. He wants to push on, but I just think it's sad, the fact that he's left, and it's a sad, sorry state of affairs for football. Really, I think where we're at in this modern age, and I wish he gave us one more year, to be honest. And I think he should have. And I do feel disappointed in him and disappointed for the club, but we push on, and it is what it is. And I'm sure we'll sort of ask the question: is he a legend? Is he a cult hero? Whatever he is, I think he's been massively important for Villa. He's been a massive factor in where we're at now, and he's done so much for this club that can't be forgotten. At the same time, he's not a player anymore, so genuinely, I don't care now. Whatever happens with him, I hope he does well for England, but I don't really care what he does for Man City. All I care about is this club.
I guess what you're saying there is there's a difference between me and you, Villa fans. Not good enough. I don't know about you. I've certainly, obviously, never good enough to play for Aston Villa. Never ever gonna happen. And there's a difference between that and being a Villa fan and being an elite athlete at the top of your game who wants to go on and achieve things. I think people will be surprised by what I'm about to say. I've obviously been at Villa Park today doing a podcast with Ian Taylor and Tommy Alfie. That should be out on the Villa View in the next couple of days. We've done something with the Luke Roper guys today. Really, really interesting to talk to Tails and Tommy, who's obviously played with Jack and worked under Dean Smith. So really interesting to get their point of view. But I put it, without spoiling it, I put it to Tails. What would he have done if he was in that situation? Now, Ian Taylor is a Villa legend. Every Villa fan loves him. And he completely sided with what Jack's done. And that may surprise people.
Really?
Yeah. Does that surprise you? I mean, that's Ian Taylor, Villa legend, Villa fan. And he was basically saying it's different when you're an elite athlete and you've got these decisions to make and you want to win things and you want to do things in your career. And Jack Grealish, 26 next birthday. He almost hasn't got time for Villa to catch up with his ambitions. Now, the owner's ambitions are for Villa to be playing in the Champions League. I love what the owners are doing. I'm fully behind them. I think what they're doing is excellent. But we're a few years away from that. We're probably a few years away from even attempting to be a top 4 side. By that time, Jack Grealish is pushing 30. Might not be on the top of his game at that point. Teams of Champions League level may not be interested in him at that point. We don't know what's going to happen with his career. This was his chance to go and make that step, play with someone like Kevin De Bruyne, work under someone as world-renowned as Pep is. And he's taken the opportunity. Now, some people will understand it and some Villa fans just simply will not, and that's fine. Everyone's got their opinion. But I thought it was really interesting what Taylor said there, because it is a hell of a decision for the lad, and it won't have been something that he would have done lightly. Jack Grealish loves Aston Villa Football Club. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I know for absolute fact Jack Grealish loves Aston Villa. But he just felt this was an opportunity he couldn't turn down. And as much as people say, well, he signed that 5-year contract, he said all that stuff, which quite simply is PR. That's just what's done nowadays. It's done for social media. It's done for likes, whatever. But within that contract, Villa agreed that there was that 100 million in there. If that came in, he could go. He's exercised his right to do that. He's not breaking the law. He's exercised something that we agreed to go in his contract.
Yeah, no, I get that. I completely get that, and I think I'm going to think it from a Villa fan's perspective now, and I think you've said it from a footballer's perspective, and I think the fact that Ian Taylor said that does put a different slant on things, because I was surprised when he told me that. I genuinely was surprised, but I think for Villa fans, they thought this was a player. It's almost like if he left last season, they wouldn't have begrudged him too much because we just survived.
Yeah,
it's more the fact that we felt that we were on an upward trajectory, and him with Bailey and Buendia, you're thinking it's a top 4. With Watkins, it's a top 4 front 4, and then the back 5 is already sort of a top 6, top 4 back 5, and obviously midfield's a bit of a weak link at the moment, but it can be improved on. So I think it was more the fact that we're maybe on the cusp of something. But I completely understand it from his perspective. I just wish it would have been a year or two later. But it's more the fact.
Do you get why it couldn't be to some extent because of
because you don't know what's going to happen. Footballer. I know. I work. I advise footballers on their finances, so I get it. A footballer's career is short. Whenever we do planning for a footballer, we build in the what if scenario. If you get injured, what happens then? What you're going to do post football, all that kind of stuff. That's the conversations I have with footballers. So I get that. It's a short career. You've got to take the opportunity when it arises, but I just feel like he would have signed a new contract. He would have been adequately paid. He would have been protected from that perspective. And I think that actually, just a point on that, I think what people don't realize is with contracts and your point about social media, I think it does hurt, my city, my club, all this kind of stuff. It is PR, but I think people genuinely believed he meant that. And in fact, I see this post around, he signed for 5 years. Why is he leaving 10 months into a 5-year contract? But in reality, and this, again, it's a sad state of affairs. This is what football is. It's changed. A contract is there to really make sure that the club is protected and the player is protected. So if the player gets injured, he's secure. His financial security is there, and if the club, rather than the player running down the contract, he's there for another few years. So it makes it difficult for a club to lowball us. We can get adequately compensated, and I think we have been adequately compensated. £100 million is a lot of money. It's a record. It's a British record. And a lot of people say, we should have got 120, 150 million. He's worth more than that to us. But 100 million for us is massive. It's going to help sustain this club for a number of years now. And it means that we can spend much more than £100 million because of the way FFP works, because you can spread the cost over the number of contracts.
Pure profit, isn't it?
Pure profit. It's pure profit. So in reality, we can spend maybe, assuming you're signing players on 3-4 year contracts, you can spend anywhere between £300 to £400 million on transfer fees and wages over the next few years, assuming that you then move on to the next level, then your revenue increases, etc. But potentially, it's massive for this club, and that's why we got people like Rob McKenzie and Johan Lang in the club. This is their modus operandi. This is what they do. They are there to develop these, put the right structure in place to develop these players up to a certain point, sell them if necessary, and then again, this is what Presley was talking about, buy similar players at a lower cost with the right attributes, right characteristics, the right output, to then go again and continue to produce players. And that's how you sustain a club. You can't have owners coming in, putting in 100, 200 million pound every year. It's not going to work. You need to have that youth setup, which we're getting, and this is what Presley again was talking about. So, this, I don't think we should be too downbeat. I know it's difficult. I get it from Jack's perspective, but I just, like I said, I wish he stayed for another year or two, because I think it would have accelerated our growth. I think what we've got now is maybe we've gone back a year, maybe.
Do you think?
It might.
I'm not
I
sure.
don't know. I think it's gonna. I'm not expecting us to get top six. I hope we do. I think we've got the players to do it. I think maybe Danny Ings is the reason why we bought Danny Ings is for that reason, is for someone with immediate impact rather than someone younger who might take time to develop. But it might. Hopefully we get top six. I don't know. I'm not saying we won't, but I'm saying it's a little bit of short-term pain for long-term gain. That's the way I see it. I think this club is still on the right trajectory. It's just a blip, a big blip, but it's a blip.
It's also the circle of life aspect of Disney in me coming out there, because for everything that like Man City have come along and got Jack, we've done a similar thing with Emi Buendia. I'm sure there's Norwich fans that I'm pretty sure he signed a contract fairly recently. I could be completely wrong there, but we've come in and swooped and taken Emi Buendia. There is that food chain, and I do think as a club we are moving up that food chain, because Danny Ings 12 months ago, absolutely, and that's with Jack Grealish at the club, by the way. 12 months ago, absolutely no chance. If we went in for Danny Ings, Southampton would have absolutely laughed at us. Danny Ings wouldn't have been interested, I wouldn't have thought, 12 months ago. 12 months on, Danny Ings knows Jack Grealish is going. Villa have swooped in, and we've took him. Southampton a couple of years ago were a far more attractive proposition than Villa. So we are moving up that food chain, and Jack's gone. It's a huge blow. I can't dress it up. Whatever I do, there's no way I can sit here and say it's good news, because it isn't good news. But I do think we're building towards something that's a little bit more sustainable now. You look at those front players now: Ings, Watkins, Buendia, Bailey. That's got a bit of everything about it. Whereas previously, it's all been a little bit too reliant on Jack. When Jack's not there, you really feel it, because our tactics over the last few years, it's obviously not that simple. It's felt like give the ball to Jack, see what he can do when we're in a hole. There's that front four now. However, Dean Smith fits them all in. That's a scary front four with a lot about it. And also, there's more goals in that front four than there was in our front positions previously. I don't know. I think Buendia scored a fair few in the Championship, but Leon Bailey's got 14 in a very good league for Leverkusen last season. That's a top league, the Bundesliga. Danny Ings is probably second to Harry Kane, I would say, as being the sharpest marksman in the Premier League. I can't think of many who are better in front of goal than Danny Ings. Harry Kane's the only one that's leaping out of me. And then you've got Ollie Watkins as well, who's had a sensational first season, really, really strong season. He's only going to get better as well. Have we now got a little bit more about us as a team? Well, if we get a couple more in the right positions as well, which I think we will, because I've just seen a comment up there saying Perslow intimated that we're finished with transfers. Not at all. We're finished in the front positions, but I can tell you we are not finished in midfield and defence. So I feel like we're building a better team rather than being so reliant on one individual. I've given you a lot to work with there, so.
No, I completely agree, and I think Perslow said that as well in his thing. That's exactly. It was almost it'd become a little bit unhealthy, the obsession with Jack.
I would agree with that.
Both on and off the field. So the circus we have every year with him. Will he go? Won't he go? It became a bit too much. We probably had that. We had it again. It destabilizes things a little bit. The reliance on him. You look at the heat maps. Everything goes through him. Even if he plays number 10, he goes over to the left. I completely agree. We've got a better balanced squad, and I think Ings for me. You mentioned Ings there at the beginning. It's a statement signing for me. That is
massively.
We are. This is the guy that was the replacement for Harry Kane. That he was earmarked to replace Harry Kane. Let's be honest. So that shows you the kind of player he is. It shows us that we're almost like the best of the rest. Almost. I would say we're in contention now with your Spurs, your Arsenal, your Everton, your West Ham. That's where we sit at this very precise time.
What about Leicester? You Leicester in that group, or are you saying that they're?
I don't know. I think Leicester are maybe a step ahead right now. Okay. But you never know. I don't think we're that far behind. I think they've signed some really good players. Patson Daka is a fantastic player, and I think I wish we would have gone for him, but we've got Ollie Watkins. So I think Danny Ings and Watkins, and we'll come on to Ings in a minute. I can see Ings and Watkins playing together. I really can, because I watch how Southampton play, and I think he can do that. And in terms of injury record, some people play about Danny Ings and being 29 injury record. He's missed less games than Jack Grealish over the last couple of years. So he's played more games than Jack Grealish. He's missed 11 games over 2 seasons. So I think it's fantastic. You mentioned Bailey. Sorry, you gave me a lot to work with, but Bailey there.
I did. I went off on one, to be honest. I didn't intend.
No, it's good. It's 14 goals. I think some of that was in Europa as well, but still, I think it was 9 goals, 8 assists or something like that. So again, output is there. He's finally found that consistency that he needed because he's been a hot prospect for a while. And again, another player linked with Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea wanted him when he was young. Amazing backstory with Leon Bailey as well. What his adoptive father went through with them in Austria and Belgium to get him teams and all that kind of good stuff. He's a really humble guy, great attitude, and just a really great signing. And with this squad now is looking so good now. The fact you got like Bertrand Traore, Anwar Ghazi, who are potentially going to be your bench options. Bertrand Traore again, had a pretty good season last year. Our defense now potentially Twanzebe coming in as well. Hopefully that strengthens that area and number of positions as well. A bit like Ashley Young, he can play a number of different positions. So it's looking really healthy. And I think you're right. Perslow mentioned about signings, but I think he was definitely talking about replacing Jack and the forward players. I think there is a hole in midfield and there is a hole in defence, and hopefully we've got maybe 2 or 3 more in us.
Yeah, the club have pushed hard for Ward-Prowse. I know that, but I mean, now we've signed Danny Ings. I'd say it's very, very unlikely. We're struggling to deal with Southampton anyway. I think from what's out there, and Ward-Prowse is going to be a difficult one to get in. I like Ward-Prowse. I think he's a very good player, but not necessarily what we need. But we should probably save that for our relaunch podcast next week. Let's talk about Danny Ings then. Because Neil, UTV, I just saw the question pop up there. He was saying, would you have rather Tammy than Ings? Now, I think the club have been really clever here because I think they've kind of put it out there that they want Tammy. And they've kind of used it as a smokescreen. And that's helped the Ings stuff go even more under the radar. But would you have preferred Tammy, or are you happy with Ings?
I love Tammy. Obviously, we've got a close affinity with him, but I think Danny Ings suits us more. I think the way we want to play, that pressing ability Danny Ings has got, he's a total footballer as well. I think Tammy is more an out-and-out goal scorer. That's in the box, but in both sides, defensively and attacking wise, he's brilliant. But I think in terms of Danny Ings, he's a proper footballer. He can play that support role. He's played almost like a support striker with Che Adams for Southampton. He's sort of more of a withdrawn striker, and he's played out wide as well. So if you're going to play 4-3-3, potentially you can play out wide, or Watkins can play out wide. They can interchange. If you're going to go for a lot more like a 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1 kind of formation that Southampton play, then again, you can play that. So, and he's a goal scorer. He's going to bring goals. That's the main thing. So he's got the goals of Tammy, but I think all-round footballer, he's probably better. Obviously, Tammy's younger, but I think spending £25 million plus add-ons for Danny Ings is probably better value than spending £40 million on Tammy, in my opinion.
Link-up play as well. I would say that's where Ings probably excels over Tammy. I liken it a little bit. I mean, bad times. I don't want to hark back to this too much, but a little bit when we brought Kevin Phillips in. Yeah, he's a bit more than a goal scorer. He can drop deep and kind of play in the hole. And if you think about Villa, I mean, Villa might completely reinvent the way they play this season. I don't know, because obviously I'm not a body more head. But when Barkley was playing as a 10, for example, or whoever was playing as the 10. Defensively, it was a 4-4-2, wasn't it? So you had Watkins and the number 10. They would press together, and out of possession, we'd sit back in a 4-4-2. I'm torn as to whether I think Watkins is going to shift to the left, or whether we're actually going to do that, and Ings is kind of going to play as a hybrid number 10.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he can play either, to be honest. I'll wait and see, but I wouldn't be surprised if we play 4-4-1-1. I wouldn't be surprised if we play Bendir. He plays on the right, but he sort of drifts inside. Leon Bailey can play either wing. So it's not often you get a wing player who can play either wing. You have Ghazi likes to play on the left, Troy likes to play on the right. Most wing players like either to cut inside or go outside, depending on who they are. But Bailey's he's good on either foot, really. If you look at his stats, so I saw a stat in terms of how much they use their either foot, and Leon Bailey was 78% left foot. And you think, he's obviously predominantly left-footed, but most players are around the 90% plus mark. So the fact he uses the right foot so frequently, whatever that is, 32%, 28, no, I'm getting it wrong. Anyway, 22%, sorry. Maths is my job. I should know that.
I was going to say, any footballers watching, I don't think they'll be coming for you for the final.
Oh, no, oh, God. And someone's rinsing my internet as well. I just saw in the comments. So not a good 5 minutes or so for Omar. But
No.
But yeah, I think the fact he uses his right foot that much shows you he's a good footballer. He's got good technique, and he can go outside on the left. So I think there's options there. I think that's what Dean wants. He wants flexibility and options. He obviously preferred the 4-3-3 and 4 or 4-2-3-1, whatever formation you want to call it before. But I think it wouldn't surprise me if we see Watkins and Ings. And I mean, imagine that, Watkins and Ings as a strike partnership. That is insane. Now, I know we're missing Jack and all that good stuff, but we've got to think about output. You've got to think about what are these players going to produce on the pitch and what points are they going to get for us. And that's the most important thing. And, it's set up for a really exciting season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be difficult for Leon Bailey to hit the ground running. I mean, he's not even turned up at the club yet, has he, Leon Bailey? So I'd say it's very unlikely you're going to see him for the first few games. But, Bendea's had a few fitness issues, but hopefully he'd be ready for day one. Ings is going to come in and be able to play immediately. He's someone you would expect to immediately hit the ground running, because other than Liverpool, which was a bit of a funny move, he hit the ground running straight away at Southampton, even Burnley in the Prem when he was playing. He was scoring goals for him. He's a player I've always liked, Danny Ings. He's
always scores against us.
Always scores against us. He's also one of those players that scores every week, but then if I ever dare to put him in my fantasy football team, he decides he'll have an off week. He'll have a blank, so I won't be going near Danny Ings on fantasy.
You look a bit like Danny Ings, don't you? I think. You've got a little bit of Danny Ings about you. You got the same haircut, I'm sure.
It's very harsh on Danny Ings in some ways. Also, I feel like Danny Ings is balding a little bit, and I feel like the haircut bit's a little bit harsh on me.
Sorry, Danny. I didn't realise that. He looks like he should be on Love Island or something.
We move.
Sleeve tattoo.
Yeah, good player though, and just a great signing, just a real lift. If anyone was feeling down about Jack Grealish, I mean, we all are to an extent, yes. But Danny Ings, it just gives you a lift to be bringing in a player of that caliber. And when you throw that with Bailey, who got confirmed on the same day as well, that's a statement signing, because again, getting a player from Leverkusen, the main man at Leverkusen, 12 months ago, not happening. No, not a chance in hell. This guy's been linked for big teams for 85 million over the last few years, but we took advantage of his contract situation. I believe Leon Bailey's changed agents over the last 12 to 18 months as well, specifically to get himself a move to England. That's what he's wanted. That's where he's wanted to test himself. These aren't just like good signings. I know signings can go differing ways depending on what happens, but these aren't good signings. They are statement signings, like you say.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the next. This is what we're doing. We're gradually improving. We're going about the right ways. Gradual progression, sustainable progression. We're signing a certain. First year we had to, obviously it was a difficult rebuild job with so many players leaving, so we had to sign as many players as we can for the budget, and it was a difficult one. Some hits, some misses. More hits now if you look at it now. Obviously the COVID break out nicely. But then last season we focused on quality and sort of English experience almost, with Martinez and Watkins in particular. But again, just the quality level went up a bit. And now I feel like we've gone another level up with, Danny Ings, who's one of the top strikers in the Premier League. Leon Bailey, one of the most gifted wingers in all 5 leagues. If you look at his stats and his output and you watch him play,
not far off the likes of the Bayern wingers, is he really, in terms of statistics?
No, he's not really. And he's in a good team, Bayer Leverkusen. They've got some good players and they've had some good players. And, it's really exciting, and now we'll see what happens with the rest of the squad. But the squad itself is looking more balanced. It's looking in a better position. I just hope we get the midfield right for me. And I know you're talking about James Ward-Prowse, but I don't know. I can't really identify. Basuma is one that people have talked about, and Gisa is another one people have talked about. But whether they're gettable or not, I don't know. But and that type of player, that type of and Gisa not for you, do you say?
Yeah, no. He's the right stature in terms of physicality and the type of player that I think we need, but I think we need someone with a little bit more about them. Basuma's an interesting one. I've got no idea whether we said it on camera or off camera today, Tommy Elphick, but he was talking about, he went to watch Brighton last week and he was saying Basuma's the kind of player Villa could do with in that midfield. He'd be someone that would be handy in there. But he was also saying he got a lot of love for Nakamba as well. I think Nakamba's a very good player, very underrated. What he does is really, really important. But I think we'll get a centre back in. I'm pretty certain at the moment that Twanzebe will end up coming back for a year on loan, which I'm all for. It sounds like Dean Smith's really, really been pushing that one. So I'm all for that. God knows how he gets into the team, because the defence has been absolutely sensational. But that's a Dean Smith problem, not a me problem, and it really, really improves the squad. If you think of the 4 centre backs there, Konsa, Mings, Hawes, and Twanzebe, that's a hell of a four to choose from as your centre backs, and they will get a midfielder. I don't know who. I don't think it will be Ward-Prowse, but there will be a midfield signer in there. I think they know they need to get the balance of that midfield right. I think the midfield we've got they're all good individually at what they do, but I feel after maybe the first 10 to 15 games, we didn't really find the right balance in midfield, did we?
No, I don't think so. I think I saw I think it was, I can't remember what paper it was, talking about McGinn, that they want to make him a number 6, and they think he's got the right attributes. They're just going to work on his short passing game.
Yeah, I think it was the Mail, wasn't it?
I think it was Mail. I think it was I think it was actually Priest said that. But I don't know. I think we've got very similar players in midfield. Douglas Luiz, I hope he finds his form again. Obviously, he's been a bit off. He's played really well for Brazil, I think, actually, in the Olympics. So that's a good sign. He's an excellent player, excellent technician. McGinn is obviously hustle and bustle, great defensively as well. But obviously, his control and passing does let him down slightly. Sanson, we haven't really seen too much of, really, to judge him. But again, he strikes me as a very similar player, sort of a box-to-box. Similar in stature as well. And then in Nakamba, who's probably the only slight difference in that his defensive work is excellent. It's far and above any of the other players. And his passing is neat and tidy, but it's not very progressive.
But McGinn looks better playing next to him, and you'd think McGinn is always going to play. So McGinn next to him. That's going to start the season, isn't it? Because Luiz isn't going to be available. So that's going to be the midfield start of the season until we get
which I'm not too displeased about. I think Nakamba's, I think he's underrated slightly. Well, maybe he's not, but I think he's good enough in the Premier League. I think he's a good squad option, good for certain games. But if we could sort of merge Luiz and Nakamba and add a bit of stature to that, then that is the perfect player that we need. Someone to dictate the game and impose themselves in the game. That's what we're missing. But if you look historically, Dean Smith has never really played with that type of player. He's always played with technicians in midfield, or people with legs, basically with engines. So I don't know. We'll see. I that's the kind of player I would go for. Whether we sign that, it's very difficult, obviously. We linked with Pepe Sarr, weren't we, early in the season? He's young. Probably, they want too much. It's definitely a buyer's market, though. I think, but with COVID, I think as the window goes on, we get later in the window, I think you'll see some more deals and clubs will be a bit more desperate to, because they need revenue in. And that's why I'm saying £100 million is good money in this environment. To get £100 million straight up is fantastic deal for Villa. So we're in a really strong position financially as well now to flex our muscles if we see the right play. We saw that with Danny Ings. We've put down £25 million. We've beaten all these other teams that wanted him to the line and get him over the line. So we've got that ability now with these owners and the way they conduct business as well. Quietly, nothing comes out of the club. No one knows anything in terms of the club. Any information that comes out of the club comes normally through the agent or the other club that's involved in the transfer. So I think it's an exciting time. I suppose my question to you is: do you think we might have a surprise or two left in terms of the stature of player that we sign or the statement signings, or do you expect it to be a bit more logical and rational in terms of the player that we sign?
As I say, I think Twanzebe will join. I'm almost certain that will go through as it stands at the moment. It's the midfield. It's the midfielder, isn't it? If it's not Ward-Prowse, they obviously want a midfielder because they've gone heavy on Ward-Prowse in the summer. So now they've got a bit of extra cash perhaps. But it sounds like the clubs know, haven't they? They've known probably over the last month or so that Jack Grealish was going to go. So they've known the situation. It's difficult. It would probably take someone a bit more nuanced than me to know about more midfielders that are out there in perhaps different leagues. No one leaps out at me other than Basuma. He seems the logical one for me, but I'm not sure Brighton will let two big players go in one summer. Now they've let go of Ben White. So hopefully, the transfer team's going to unearth someone and there's someone out there for us. But I don't think we'll go around throwing loads of money at it. But if the right player was to come available, and we are in a very fortunate position with our owners and as a club, the way we will spend money and they will back the manager and back the club. We're quite unique. We're a unique proposition at the moment for players as well. So players will be buzzed to perhaps make the trip to Villa. As I say, Danny Ings 12 months ago, not a shot now. Seems an easy move for him to make, and he's very, very happy about it. So we've made progress. I think we'll continue to make progress. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks going towards the end of August, because there will be players in and we've got money to play with. We'll see what happens. Yeah,
there's a few shouts on the comments as well. Kamara from Marseille is definitely one that's been talked about on Twitter. Definitely, I think he's an excellent player. Whether he's gettable or not too sure, but he's exactly the type of player that we need. Someone's mentioned Jude Bellingham. I don't think that will that would happen. Catmull obviously has been another one that's been linked, but obviously in a more forward position. But I think Perslow's put that to bed really. So I don't see any of that. But Damsgaard is another player I thought we might look at. I think he's a great player, great prospect, and it would have been a natural Jack replacement for me. But I think we're done in terms of that kind of work now. But that would have been one player we'd look at. But someone like Kamara from Marseille, we may look abroad, I think, for a midfielder, I think, just with the right attributes. Because we've got experience there with Louise, McGinn, Nakamba. They've been playing the Premier League now. They understand what it's about. So you can afford, I think, to take a bit more of a risk with the midfielder rather than someone like Ings, which is tried and tested and a bit more experience. I think we can go for someone a bit younger and a bit more, someone with the right attributes and a bit more of not a gamble as such, but someone where we can, hopefully these type of players you sign for 20 million and they end up being 80 million pound players. Those type of players where
that's what they're doing with Leon Bailey, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's that. Yeah, exactly. Leon Bailey is the type of player, that kind of profile. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we go for someone like that.
Thomas Delaney is the only one that comes in my head as someone I would personally look at again, but I don't know whether we'd sign another 29-year-old. But I think he's got the pedigree, defensive midfielder. There's a bit of everything there, a bit of experience. He'd perhaps be one that leaps out at me. But yeah, other than that, it'd be interesting to see what happens because I haven't got a clue. I think that does us for this show. There'll be plenty more content coming up on the Villa View in the coming days. We've got that podcast with Ian Taylor and Tommy Elphick and myself. That'll either be out tomorrow or very early Saturday. John Inslee, if you're watching, get on that edit so we can get it out as soon as possible. Relaunch of the podcast will be next week. We think it's going to be Monday with Dolan, Omar and myself. So watch out for that. That's the week before the season starts. So we'll probably be having a good look at the Watford game, day one of the season. Thanks as ever to Luke Roper for sponsoring the show. If you do want to treat yourself to some Luke goods, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off most items at luke1977.com. Thanks to Omar for hopping on with me tonight. There's been plenty to go through. Hope everyone's not too sad. Hope we've given you a little bit of positivity because I do think there's a lot to look forward to as Villa fans. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Come on, lads.